This past Saturday marked the opening of the 2017 trout season in 18 southeast Pennsylvania counties. For the rest of the state, the fishing season starts next Saturday. And so far this spring, with adequate rainfall, it's already shaping up to be a better fishing year than last year. So once again tonight, we feature the fish in EarthBeat. Penn State University has been a leader in fly fishing education for the better part of a century. A course devoted entirely to anglers was developed by the legendary George Harvey in 1947. It has evolved over the last 7 decades, now falling into the direction of Dr. Greg Hoover, an aquatic entomologist at Penn State. Recently, I had the chance to spend a morning out on the stream with Greg to discuss the principles of fly fishing, particularly the ways in which the weather is such a big player.
You know, it's much more comfortable when it's sunny or slightly overcast with no precipitation happening. It's just a much more comfortable situation. But I will admit, some gentle rainfalls cause the insects to remain on the water for a longer period of time, and you can have some excellent fishing under those conditions.
So for effective fly fishing, it's not just about how the weather affects the fish behavior, but also how the weather affects insect behavior. Fly fishing largely revolves around the imitation of insects to bait trout, making Hoover's expertise on bugs extremely valuable.
Fly fishermen are probably the anglers that are most aware of what's happening on a stream. In April, insects will emerge during the heat of the day, and as we get into summer, the insect activity will occur later in the afternoon into dusk. And then in the summertime, there could be switches where you'd want to be on the water early in the morning when insect activity is happening, most peak-wise, and then also around dusk and even into the first hour or so of nightfall when insects have mated and the females are laying eggs. It's an excellent time to be on the water fly fishing in the summertime.
In the State College area, Spring Creek is one of the most popular trout fishing destinations. It is a groundwater buffered stream, which helps it to stay thermally adequate for fish to survive. But many other parts of the state are not so lucky.
When you get to north central Pennsylvania, they're what we call freestone streams, and their temperature fluctuations really occur dramatically and increase so that in the summertime, those temperatures get so warm that trout actually will congregate at the mouths or the confluences of smaller, colder streams in order to survive. And warmer temperatures mean less dissolved oxygen. Trout require elevated dissolved oxygen to be active and to survive.
So what is dissolved oxygen? Although water molecules contain an oxygen atom, that is not the oxygen that is needed by aquatic organisms living in water. Around 10 oxygen molecules per 1 million water molecules are actually dissolved in the water. This is then the oxygen breathed by fish and what is needed to survive. Dissolved oxygen has an inverse relationship with temperature, meaning that as temperatures rise in the summer, dissolved oxygen levels will tend to decrease, and vice versa. So stream conditions may become inadequate for fish to survive in a period of hot weather. For most of 2016, Pennsylvania during the fishing season and the growing season was under a drought. And when it comes to fish, that means less dissolved oxygen for survival and also low stream levels, which can trap fish in isolated pools of water. But so far this year, with the recent rains, stream flows are up, and that means good news for the fish and the fishermen. Almost all stream flows across the state of Pennsylvania right now are at or above average, some in the top 10% of highest stream flows. Only a few across the state are below average. Additionally, last fishing season was starting coming off of a March where most of Pennsylvania did not even see half of the average monthly rainfall. This March, most of Pennsylvania saw between 1 and 2 times the average rainfall for the month. Regular spring rainfall also helps to keep stream temperatures in the optimal range for trout to survive, in general between 45 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Regular spring rains also keep streamside rocks wet, and, as you may imagine, wet rocks and your clumsy neighborhood meteorologist do not always get along very well. It is important to remember that as we approach thunderstorm season in Pennsylvania, immediately after a heavy rainfall is not a great time to fish.
When we get a stormwater event, those flows quickly rise up, but they also come down quickly, and so an angler may not have to wait for a long period of time until conditions get right, as compared to a forested system where those flows will come up slowly and they'll also drop slowly, and so it might be an extended period of time before those surface waters are fishable. There can be, when we get snow melt early in the spring, or we get some tropical storm that comes up along the coast and dumps a lot of water in an area. When streams are really high and muddy and when kayakers are happy, fly fishermen usually have to fish along the edges where trout do move under those higher discharge periods of time.
So in the eyes of an expert angler, what is the perfect weather day for fishing?
Well, I have to pick the month of May, when insect activity is peaked and there's a lot of different species. On sort of a somewhat overcast day, minimal wind, and just a day that not just for the angler, but it would be the conditions where insect activity is peaked and where you can fish various life stages with imitations that are tied to try to fool the trout into eating them.
I've issued this disclaimer before. I will issue it again. It's always best to know what recent weather patterns have been and what current weather patterns are before you head out on the stream to catch a fish. Your luck out there in the fishing universe, or dare I say, tuniverse, could depend on it. For Weather World, I'm Ben Reppert.